Okay, so like I was saying, there are some really good benefits to knowing what you can do with these and what you guys, when you use some of these pencils, what you can and can't come back from are really important. So I'm gonna do it on a page I don't care about so I can show you what I mean. So to start off with B, does anybody know if I look at a pencil and it says B, do you know, anybody know what B means or stands for? No, it means soft. B is soft. H, does anybody know what H is? If B is soft, H is what? Hard, opposite of soft, right? So it's really easy to remember that. So the bigger the number for B, for soft, it's gonna be the softer the pencil. So that's just the composition within that graphite that you have, the way it was formed. It's just gonna break off easier, it's gonna make it messier, which is also gonna make it darker. Hard is the opposite. So since it breaks off easier and soft, what do you think hard's gonna do? Anybody? Not break off. Thank you, person in the back. Not break off. It's gonna make it, it's gonna be lighter. Instead of darker, it's gonna be lighter, it's gonna be harder. So I'll start with the 6B, which is gonna be your darkest. And I'm very gently, this is barely touching it. And you can see it's kind of dark. And then I can starting to add pressure, add pressure, add pressure. And now you can see it's starting to get really dark, right? So that's 6B. I'm just gonna go through them real quick. You can kind of see the difference. I'll write a nice 6 by it so you know what that was. This is gonna be that 4B. So soft, soft, soft. As it gets harder, it's gonna be slightly less dark, as you can see that. This is 2B. This is your typical regular old pencil. 2B. This is just B. Oh, sorry, I didn't come down with it. Sorry.
I wish someone would tell me when I'm teaching and I can't see.
So this is an HB. So this is a nice blended. And then we have just regular H. So as you can see with them, not only does anybody want to volunteer? Let me see if I can show you guys all of them in one slide. There you go. Anybody want to tell me the differences between B and H, just looking at them visually? Anyone? Anyone want to dare? Anybody see any differences? Are there differences? Yes? No? Yes, okay. So your 6B, is it fuzzy or is it very, very concise? Fuzzy, right? Versus your H, it's very, very concise. It's a nice line, right? So B, since it is soft, is going to blend easier than your H. It's going to be darker and it's going to be just fuzzier. You're gonna have more of those granulations, which is fine. So whenever you have it soft, it's gonna be easier to blend to make it dark, and then you can go over it and again to make it very nice. And very opaque. H, let me find my H. It's not as fuzzy. You can see almost every single line that I've shown, right? Like every single line that I drew, you can see it, versus B, it's very soft. So knowing this, blending wise, I'm gonna do it with the blending stump, and then I'm gonna show you another way to blend as well. So I'm gonna do blending stump. You can kind of see the difference. This is me going back and forth. So soft blends super fast. Barely took any effort at all. H, here, I'll make H a little bigger because it was not as big of a piece. It blends, it's just not as nice. You can still, I'm blending, but you can still see my lines. H is hard. It's gonna be harder to blend. So with that in mind, you can also use paper Kleenexes, paper towels. The really bad paper towels on the back, they are great at doing it. Kleenexes are great at doing this. And you can use this to blend as well. So if you're having, like, let's say, I know right now we're doing eyes, but you're doing a face and you have a whole cheekbone that you just want to blend, you can just use this, and you have extra material that comes off, and you can blend using that.
Use their fingers?
Oil. So little do you know, everybody's oily, And so that transfers onto your paper. And so then it's going to make it harder to blend if you have to go over something, and it's going to make it, you're gonna get it all over you, and it's gonna get transferred over to other parts of your paper that you don't even want. And you're gonna have a sheen on parts of it and then on not. And it's very noticeable, especially if you take a picture of it. You're like, I love my piece, it looks so great. And then you take a picture of it, you're gonna see these weird oily splats. So, also with B versus H, let me figure out which one I have. So 6B, I can get a really nice dark line, right? But it versus, and it's soft. If I turn my paper over, let me do it on a piece that doesn't have anything. So if I turn my paper over, it doesn't make an indent. That's pretty nice and smooth. H is the opposite. H, you can literally feel, I know it's kind of hard to see it, but you can feel the indentation of where your pencil is. So with that in mind, if I can feel the indentation that I just made with it, it's gonna be harder to erase that. So that's why H is super hard to erase, because it's hard. It just kind of becomes a part of the paper. Versus B is soft, so it flakes off easier, so it's gonna be easier to erase. That's why everybody always goes for a 2B to sketch, because it's easier to erase, but it's also light enough where you're not gonna have it super dark. That's why I never, ever, ever sketch with an H, because even if I do the simplest, smallest lines, they will be ingrained in your paper and you will not have to you can't get them out. So those are just fun things that I like to do about pencils. Any questions? No? Great.